To the Finance Committee meeting today. It is, I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 6:09. I appreciate everyone's attention to this all-important meeting. It is going to be a rather in-depth meeting with a lot going on. I'd like to welcome our new members, Sean Ferry, Paul Nicholas, and Sean Beverly to the committee, and the rest of us are pretty familiar faces up here. Let's see. First, I'd like to take a look at the minutes of the April 9th meeting.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of our April 9th, 2025 meeting as written.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded for the April 9th, 2025 Finance Committee meeting. All those in favor, is there any discussion? All those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining?
Okay.
We have 3 abstentions. Thank you. All right. Now we're up to reserve fund transfers. Just for the people that may be new to this meeting, reserve fund is a fund set aside by the townspeople for the finance committee to be able to pay things that are unforeseen and unanticipated during the fiscal year. And generally, it goes toward things such as repairs that are needed for equipment. Shortfalls in budgets as we go along through the season. So it's just and the Finance Committee has a pretty solid control of that budget and that budget only. All the rest of the budgets are compiled and provided to us by the department heads. So let's take a look at the employee fringe benefits first.
Yep. I'm going to make a motion that we move from reserve fund account number 132-5782, the amount of $8,000 to the account number 175 planning expenses.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to transfer from the reserve fund, account 132 to account 175, planning expenses in the amount of $8,000. This amount, in reviewing the reason for this, is to provide money to an engineering firm to review the mitigation plan that was provided by Berkshire Concrete for the dust issue that everyone's familiar with. If you have any questions about that, I can fill you in on a few things, but I can't fill in the whole process. Tony Pellegrino might be able, and Robert Collins over here might be able to fill in some blanks, but I think everyone's seen the press and understands what's going on. What this does is it provides the town with some protection for the people of the town in relationship to the dust problem we've been experiencing from Berkshire Concrete. Are there any questions or concerns about this budget, or this transfer? Anyone have any questions? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor of this reserve fund transfer signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? That is unanimous. Thank you.
I make a motion to move from the reserve fund account number 132 to the account number 294, Forest Warden salary, the amount of $110.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to transfer from account 132, reserve fund, to account 294, Forest Warden, a salary amount of $110. This is just to satisfy a stipend that had to be filled in from the previous forest warden. Are there any questions, is there any other discussion, questions, or concerns with the relationship with the forest warden? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining. That is unanimous.
I make a motion to move from reserve fund account number 132 to account number 919, employee fringe benefits, the amount of $6,000.
Second.
A motion been made and seconded to reserve, to transfer from reserve account 132 to account 919, employee fringe benefits, excuse me, fringe benefits, $6,000. This, Tom, did you want to fill us in on this reserve fund for Sandy, or you want me to go with?
Yes, there are additional vacation payouts this year that were unexpected. That's the majority of it.
All right. Plus, there were some employees that were eligible for vacation payouts as well.
Yes.
Are there any questions or concerns relating to this motion? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining, that is unanimous. Thank you.
I make a motion to transfer from the reserve fund account number 132 to account number 196, contingency hours salary, the amount of $1,600.
Second.
Motion to made and seconded to transfer from reserve account 132 to account 196 contingency hours salary, the amount of $1,600. So we've had people working extra to get things done. That's why we ended up with this.
Yes. There's a number of people using this contingency account right now,
Yeah,
at this point.
Yeah, and that's for excess, generally for excess hours that they work, outside of the hours that they're,
I'm sorry, what was the question?
outside of the regular hours.
Yes,
Okay.
outside of it, usually on a Friday or a Saturday.
Okay.
It's in addition to the usual 36 hours of town hall staff, an additional 4 may be earned through this method.
All right, thank you. And that would be 4 per week, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Straight time.
Yeah. Yeah, I remembered that part. Gets a little long sometimes. Are there any questions or concerns with relationship to the contingency hour salary? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining. That is unanimous. Thank you again. Now, originally we had some, and I just had this, was already in the agenda, we just wanted to bring it up. We no longer need to transfer to the select board expense, and salaries, you don't need to make that transfer anymore?
Nope.
Okay.
Bill, what is the ending reserve fund transfer
Okay.
for 2025?
Presently, the reserve fund has $10,608 remaining in it. It started out with $60,000. We've had, let's see, 10 previous transfers from the reserve fund account. Generally, the reserve fund account is funded through free cash. We don't really, it's not through a raise and appropriate, so it's made from available funds. So it isn't something like we're digging into some hole and blaming it on people's taxes as well. All right. Next is old business. And I
Thank you.
called, I'm sorry?
Thank you.
Well, I put this under old business because previously we have reviewed the police budget and weighed in on that budget. And this evening is going to be a similar case. Tom, do we expect the police chief to be here to provide a presentation or no?
Unfortunately, she's unable to be here. I may have erred in not letting her know that this meeting was tonight, but I think we got a very good explanation the last time she was in, and of course the Finance Committee, and she came to an understanding and an approved budget.
The only little thing, the only small change that has taken place is a annual town meeting when it comes to the relationship to the police budget. During that annual town meeting, 60% of the people in attendance, with which that has been attended at a greater rate, that was attended at a greater rate than has been seen in decades. And I'm not sure how many decades back, because I don't recall it, and I've been at this for 30 years. So it's more than 3 decades that we've had an attendance of that number. And during that time, that budget that we proposed to the people was rejected. And it was rejected by 60% of the people seated at that meeting. It is incumbent upon the Finance Committee to arrive at a new number of some kind. It's part of the job of the Finance Committee. So we need to kind of dig into this thing and see what kind of feeling the Finance Committee has and what we may motion. Even if it is the same number, I would strongly disagree with that, but even if it's that number, we need to be able to tell the people we feel comfortable with that number that we're providing for the townspeople. Keeping in mind that we are here for the townspeople. All right, as we go through deliberations on this budget, if anyone would like to speak, just be patient with me. We'll let you speak to the budget. It's not quite as formal as you see with the select board. You guys keep it pretty nice. The select board keeps pretty tight rein on things with good reason, because you can kind of get a little off on tangents and such. So we're a little bit we're a little more forgiving when it comes to that, and it's a good thing for all of us. So, all right. Is there anyone on the committee first that would like to speak with relationship to this budget? I will have comments at the end.
Should I make a motion to approve the budget as it stands, the $1,664,924?
We can certainly take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the budget for the police department in Department 210 in the amount of $1,664,924.
Second?
Motion made and seconded for the police department, account 210 in the amount of $1,664,924. That is an 8.4% increase, or $129,668. Is there discussion? We can go one at a time if you like. If you would, please, Tom.
Yes. First, I believe that the chief will have a presentation at town meeting similar to that which you gave the Finance Committee and the Select Board, which will explain in detail what the expenses are for. In terms of the salaries, I can speak to that, having negotiated the salaries. The contract that was agreed to by both sides still has to be voted on by town meeting, but it does provide for about a 2.5 step increase the first year, and only 1 step the second year, and 1 step the third year. In contrast, the highway and dispatchers contracts called for 2 steps the first year, no steps the second year, and 2 steps the third year. And both of them have their benefits. You know, the police budget provides a little bit more money up front, but then they don't get as much at the end. And I think that was what drew people's attention. But I will say that the town meeting did pass the dispatchers and the highway budget, even though those budgets were also substantially increased. Again, it was by 2 instead of about 2.5 steps. And the reason it was 2.5 steps was that the police presented a very good list of about 15 comparable communities. Some of them are regionally comparable, some of them are comparable across western and central Massachusetts, showing what the average starting pay of a patrol officer is. Those salaries are, if we passed the budget as presented, the patrol officers here would be getting about 60 cents more next year as a starting pay than the average of those comparable towns got this year. And a number of those towns are also undergoing a contract this year, so we can assume that their salaries will go up at least a certain amount. That is, in the context of other departments, and it's important to think of that for recruitment and retention purposes. In the context of other departments, we are really bringing them up to the average of comparable towns. And that discussion was not able to happen at town meeting, unfortunately. And I think if that discussion happens at the upcoming town meeting, it will be seen as a reasonable increase in context.
Can I ask you just who are the comparable towns?
I'm afraid I don't have the list with me now, but it includes at least half a dozen towns in Berkshire County, some in Hampshire, some in Worcester County. So it's a fairly broad spread, but they all have similar populations to Dalton.
I know she had neighboring
Some are
towns.
higher and some are lower. Interestingly, some of the closer, smaller towns
Yeah.
have a higher starting pay for officers. It's very difficult to recruit these days. And a few years ago, we did a town-wide compensation and classification study. And the goal of the select board, at least, was to get to the point where we would be offering competitive wages. And they defined that as not being just the middle of the pack, which would, if you thought of it as like 50% of the range. We weren't in the middle. They wanted more like 60. So we wanted to give people a little bit of an edge. We have now lost that edge after what I call the COVID wage inflation, especially for jobs paying, $20 to $60,000, $70,000. Those all generally got pushed up, and we have not been able to follow suit quite in Dalton about that. This is the year that the police were due for a renegotiation of their contract. What they're earning this year is a full $2 an hour below the average that other towns are earning in that comparable list. So that's a substantial deficit in terms of recruiting and retaining officers. We just had an officer leave Dalton for a smaller town, which has better pay. So we don't want that trend to continue.
What did you say, Tom?
That is not correct. The salary he's getting now is less than.
Oh, it is less?
It is substantially less.
Oh, I'm sorry, do you have the comparable towns there?
I know. I didn't receive that part of the contract, so I don't know.
We did get that at one meeting, I can't find it in my file.
Well, maybe it's where they say that.
The question I have when it comes down to comparable pay is when we look at that, do we include, when we're talking about comparable pay, all of the various stipends, this salad that we get that has all the stipends and all of the other things that are baked into this budget? Are all of those stipends included in that money, or are all of those stipends left off the end and added on to the wages?
Those are additional, they're negotiated separately, and of course, different officers have different stipends for different work. For instance, the shift differential, various kinds of training and things like that. But in terms of base pay, you'd be attracting a beginning officer who would not have many of those stipends. The starting salary is very important.
Are we aware of other police departments that offer this level? This is a substantial, it's a substantial number of stipends. I have to speak for my experience at the DOT, and I had countless certificates and never received a nickel for one. But yet I continue to do the work. Not that I encourage training, always haven't stopped, and I'm not going to stop in the future. But the question lies with, is there some sort of a method that can be used to improve upon the ability for, say, working up a career ladder or something like that instead of paying stipends? It just seems to me the stipend thing is just like, it's a little on the crazy side when you try to read the budget.
And I did not do a full contract cost out for the 15 towns to see how that looked. Again, beginning officers will get fewer stipends than anybody else because they haven't had time to get the training.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. We
So on top of their salary, for those who are experienced and up the road already, they get their salary, plus they get the stipends. What would that all come out to, John?
I don't have a cost out. I mean, it would be different for each individual, of course.
Correct.
So there would be a complex matrix, and I do not have that.
So if we were to not approve the budget as was presented and approved at the last finance meeting prior to the town meeting, would the contracts have to be renegotiated?
It's likely would not have to be, in that we've done a little, I've done a little research, and it's kind of looks like there might be somewhere in the neighborhood of about roughly $130,000 that presently is not being used in that budget. So we have a bit of a surplus in that budget, and that's where I'm beginning to wonder. We have presently $129,000 increase in the budget, but yet we had a surplus this year of $130,000, and the previous year was over $100,000 surplus in the budget, and it raises concerns for me that the taxpayers are paying they're paying for a budget that has more in it than is needed. Would be a tighter budget comes in at less than 10% remaining in the budget at the end of the fiscal year. Most of them, I know, buds are generally about zero. We look at it at the end of the fiscal year. Bud's zero, and he's wondering if he's going to make it to the end. But he somehow manages to do it each and every year for us. So there's been a couple of times we haven't quite been.
Yeah. Bill, can I speak?
Yes, please. Don.
You know, with all due respect, I just want to step back in terms of the process. In the first week of April, this committee, absent some members, disapproved the budget, voted it down. The chief came back, sat with the committee, renegotiated the budget, made cuts of some 14,000, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
The committee voted it up unanimously. A week later, town meeting occurs, and correctly so, it wasn't voted up. However, with all due respect, this committee sets the number, and I don't see why this committee wouldn't continue to set that number with all your due deliberation that's gone on throughout the season.
First,
Can I speak to that?
please do.
For myself, I found it revealing at the annual town meeting to hear from other people, in particular, people with knowledge of how the police department operates and had been involved in the budgeting process themselves, about certain areas where the budget could be trimmed. And it's on that basis that I feel that there's an opportunity to do some trimming, not the cuts that the chief was talking about in her presentation, and touching actually on none of that, but actually going after a couple of items that won't cut into any bone or any meat. It will just get rid of a little bit of the excess. And it's not going to eliminate the excess, but I think it can reduce the excess from, a 6-digit excess down to a 5-digit excess, leaving her probably $40,000, $50,000 of excess, and not even taking that to zero. And I think that's our responsibility in the face of a budget that's going up by 7.9% this year. I think that we need to do everything we can and set that culture for our town going forward.
Just in response, again, this increase is largely due to contractual obligations, contract that has been signed. And that contract, if I'm hearing correctly, was to bring this police department up to parity with similar departments of our size in the area. So that's the driver of this increase, in a nutshell.
And speaking to that, if I may, we are not touching anything to do with salaries. That's not what this is going to do. This is going to take advantage of, or not take advantage, but address excesses. And I think it's important to do that. I think when we are approaching our levy ceiling, I think it's our responsibility as a finance committee to assure the financial stability of Dalton and making sure that we have levy capacity left to address emergencies if they should occur is our responsibility. And I think taking excess monies, not touching any salaries whatsoever, just taking excess monies is not inappropriate. It is our responsibility to at least attempt.
Again, I'm going to go back to this, the committee did approve it in toto a week before the town meeting. So I think you've been given enough time for due deliberation up until then. The cuts that you're going to, or the cuts the chief proposed in terms of eliminating programs would in fact not decimate, but certainly impact negatively programs to the community, services to the community. And in this day and age, our well-being and safety is all important.
That is indeed true. However, understanding the level of surplus that is in, and I think that is what the point is here. It doesn't take away from a single thing with relationship to the safety of this town, any cuts that we may do. There are cuts that can be done in the overtime budget that is not being used completely each year. And it still leaves plenty of room for plenty of overtime on top of that. And that puts us in a much better fiscal position when it comes down to that, with relationship to the towns. There could come a time, Tony, if this continues and we continue on this path, we're going to be up against Proposition 2.5. When we get up against Proposition 2.5, you're completely aware of, because you've been on the Finance Committee before when we've reached Prop 2.5. And we've had to remove police officers, we've had to remove laborers and other people within the town. That will impact greatly at that point. Is where, and I'd like to further mention that this committee has not singled out the police department. There are countless budgets that we have already cut this year. It's not like this is the only one we've looked at. We have 75 budgets that we have to review, and the vast majority of them were cut. this year. So it's not, we're not singling anybody out. We look at these budgets the same way each time. We have a 5-year spreadsheet that we look at to see the excesses that occur within the budget process. That's where this is coming from. This isn't, we're not just grabbing numbers out of the sky, as people may think. This is taking great research. I would love to hand her whatever nickel she wants. She can have all, as far as I'm concerned, she could have all the money she could ask for, if we could afford it. If we wouldn't end up against Proposition 2.5, it would be perfectly fine. If I didn't have to listen to every other taxpayer that comes up to me and says, I can't afford it. I have taxpayers that have come up to me and said that they can't afford, they have to make a decision whether to get their prescriptions filled or pay their taxes. That's a shame in a town like this. That's an absolute shame, and I don't have just one person that's coming up to me. I have countless people. I don't count them anymore.
I
just want to say one more thing, Bill. I'm not going to deny the fact that when we hit that wall, all budgets are going to be scrutinized equally, whether it's by the Finance Committee or the Select Board. I don't believe we've come up against that wall right here, right now. And a vote for this budget number is a credit and a confidence in our police force. And that's my point.
I don't think a vote against what we're currently having is a vote of non-confidence in our police force.
We have to disagree.
Question?
Does anyone like to talk on this side?
Yeah, Jim, you may, just give us 1 second, I'll get to you. I have one person on the committee that would like to speak, and then you're next.
Okay.
Any proposed cuts that we'd be discussing this evening, have those been run by the chief of police? Do we have any input from the police department on any proposed cuts?
At the present time, we do not. I was anticipating our police chief being here this evening, and apparently she, with the near week that we had for notification of this meeting, she was unable to see that the meeting was going to take place. Jen, yes?
Okay, a couple things. We can't hear anyone but you. So if anyone's talking from the other side of the committee, it's very hard to hear Tom or anyone on that side. So if there's a microphone, that'd be great. Apparently no one's connected to the chat in this either, because we've had questions popping up all over the place, but not being responded to. And thirdly, how close are we to the cap on Prop 2.5 that we're all concerned about? And finally, if there's money that's coming back from the overtime, which is very difficult to project, we'll say, and that money comes back to the town at the end of the year, and, you know, we can go one way or the other with budget correctly or budget incorrectly. I'm not sure why we would say it's incorrectly when we don't have to come for a reserve fund transfer for overtime. But in emergency services, it's very difficult to say how much overtime we're gonna have because of a car crash or medical or a crime that happens at, we'll say, shift change. So there's overtime there for people coming off duty or et cetera. You know, emergency services is very difficult to pin down to any of the overtime side. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Divert.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, I need to make a statement here that you just said the chief was notified a week ago. That's incorrect. She was notified at 2:13 this afternoon for this meeting with a full schedule ahead of her. So you just misguided the entire committee. That's number one. Number two, to Mr. Irwin, you made a motion of $1.6 million, 1.664924, which is the original budget request, which the Finance Committee unanimously approved before town meeting. Now you're talking about cuts. Make a motion for cuts and put your name on it, or move ahead and approve this when it goes to town meeting on the 9th. Third is that the reminder for new finance committees. Unanimously for the budget number that Mr. Irwin just put forward, unanimously, but your chair and Mr. Irwin did not support that budget at town meeting. They read it aloud and backed up and voted no against the budget. So number one, I'm absolutely disgusted that you and our town manager did not engage our chief prior to this meeting and make sure she was here. And I know for a fact, I have the evidence that she was notified at 2:13 this afternoon. You should absolutely resign, Mr. Chairman. This is disgusting.
Bob has his hand up. Yes.
Bob, if you would, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to speak to the fact that you guys did vote that. The select board unanimously voted that, and there was one member from the select board that did not support it at the town meeting along with you. I just don't understand that. That was a huge slap in the face to every one of the men and women on that police force. When we worked at Crane's, we took pride, the Crane family made us feel pride to be part of that. And that's what we're trying to do with this community, to support these officers. And what you people did at that meeting was not nice. You slapped them in the face. For every one of them, they put their life on the line for you guys every day. Every day they put your life, every time they put that uniform on, their life's in danger. My son was on the police force once. He got hurt. He was hurt for a month. And that's where this overtime budget comes into effect. Somebody gets hurt on this, that budget gets used up pretty quick. Right now, Pittsfield is facing a $2 million deficit in their overtime budget. So you got to prepare for that, and that's what she's doing. Some can go out on maternity leave, some can go out on training. We just got a new person coming. We lost a person. It cost over $50,000 to train one of these people. So I would ask you to support the budget that you originally voted on, and tell these young men and women you've got their backs.
I'd like to point out a couple things about this budget. First of all, when I was a selectman and I voted to move this budget forward, I moved it to move it on to the townspeople to vote against it, and vote for it or against it. I, at the time, moved it on because I was one vote in a body of 5. I did support the budget after I learned more about it and the amount of money that is being handed back in free cash back to the town at the end of her budget every year, and it's been consistently. For the past 2 or 3 years, it's been almost $100,000 or more than $100,000 if Sandy can reallocate those numbers if she happens to have those with us. But more importantly, it wasn't 1 or 2 no votes from this board at the town meeting and my no vote off the select board that shot her budget or the police chief budget down. It was 60% of the people in the audience that shot this down. They requested to the town, the select board, the finance committee, to take that $1.6 million and go back and drop it. Somehow, some way, find where you can cut it without hurting the services. And one way we can do that is by taking some of the excessive over expenditure, extra monies that she has in there and give back. But more importantly, the people said we don't accept the budget, and I feel it's a 100% insult by the select board and for this committee not to take a substantial amount of money, whether it's $20,000, $40,000, or $50,000 off this, and bring it back to the townspeople. Because they already told us, as a group, we do not accept this number, and we're telling them it's too bad, we're bringing it back. I feel that that's a total slap to their face, and that's not democracy. That's ignoring democracy and doing just whatever you guys want, and or the select board wants for this town. And I'm sorry to say it, but you have to, this is the only board that has a chance to stand up at that next meeting and either support that 1.6 or say, we have found areas to take out money without hurting the major services to our police department. We are not going after the police officers. We're trying to go after the extras. And if Sandy could tell this board, where's that $100,000 the last year or 2 come from? Is it overtime? Is it sick time that wasn't used? Because if we just simply said, hey, how much money is she handing back in this year in free cash? Cut that in half. At least it's showing the townspeople that voted no against this budget that you tried. You may have tried, you might be the worst hated people in the town, but you tried and you listened to democracy and the people that voted at the town meeting. That's all I have to say.
First and foremost, I would like to make a comment about Mr. Irwin's and my decision to vote in the manner that we did. I voted to bring the budget, initially, I wanted to see $20,000 removed from that budget. It ended up at just short of $15,000. But as you can see, I found a way to compromise on that and felt that that was something we could bring to the people and let the people make the decision. I count myself as one of those people when I'm in that meeting. Something that seems to have been forgotten in this event is that there were two people that managed to vote for their own paycheck in that group. No one said so much as a word about that. Not so much as a word. But yet, when you have two people that have worked hard to try to get this thing through, and try to get this thing balanced, and try to save, and try to put some money back into the town so that the town can continue to function properly, we're chastised for a vote that we put our hands up for, and the whole world can look at us and say, oh, you did it wrong. That's what's taking place here. That's what silent votes are for. I don't know how many people like to hear that, but I don't look around the room and chastise people for the way that they vote. They choose to vote that way because they're in that room, and they get to vote how they want to vote. When you stand in that booth and you vote, people don't ask you how you voted, or they should ask you how you voted. So as far as anyone's concerned, Mr. Irwin, myself, and Mr. Collins, when we chose to vote that way, that's our vote. We get to make it. If you choose to vote the way you want to vote, you can vote that way. I don't judge you for how you vote, and it's not going to start. But that happens to be my vote that day. I did not support this budget. I supported this budget to go to the townspeople.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, please.
It just came off as wishy-washy. You made an announcement to us that you had the budget, and then you're like, yeah, I've changed my mind. You're at the head of this group. They agreed to the budget, and you changed it.
I did not change my mind.
Of course you did. You voted up what was presented
Let me
to
ask
us. It's wishy-washy. It's
What-
not leadership.
Yeah, make a comment.
Sure.
At the annual town meeting, maybe
Yes.
were you there?
I certainly will.
Did you hear Diane Lowe make her presentation of information?
I saw the video of what you did
Did you,
online.
then you heard what she said.
Yes.
So you heard that she introduced information, new information to all of us on the nature of the way budgets used to be put together at the police department. Did you hear that?
I'm talking about how you voted.
I understand that, but the point I'm attempting to make is that we had new information, and based on new information, that we are open-minded. So based on being open-minded and hearing new information, I changed my
It
vote.
seemed like you had to go with the tide that was in the audience. You couldn't stand by your convictions of what you voted for with this group and present it to us.
I beg to differ.
Obviously, yes.
Joe Diver has his hand raised. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, a couple things. Bill, I hear what you're saying, but if you go back and see when I'm the chair of the committee, I don't vote because the people vote, and I respect the vote of the committee that I support, so that's what I would expect as a voter. The chair would say, we voted unanimously. Mr. Irwin, to your point of the information, the new information, You did not validate anything with the chief. And to Mr. Collins, who just brought up the same information that Mr. Droshine has led us together, nobody went back to the years prior to that, under the prior administration, where they under budgeted. And there were more interdepartmental transfers to offset that budget than ever before. And I think that information will come out soon. So I think you misstated, you have a motion, you have a second for the original budget. And if anybody's gonna make a cut, speak up. Let's hear it. Don't do it on the meeting, do it now. Mr. Irwin, you motioned 1.66492, which was the original budget that was presented to town meeting, which now you're saying you did not support, but yeah, you just made a motion for the same damn budget. You're talking on both sides of your cheek there, sir.
Mr. Dibber, you have been on committees for a long time, and you know that the way to broach a subject is to make a motion to open it. And it is not indication of your belief in it or your disbelief in it.
No,
We are
no,
going to
no, I
get-
disagree. I disagree.
Let me finish.
Yes.
Let me finish, please. And so that, in this particular case, that is exactly what's going on. I'm not saying that to inform you. I'm saying that to inform the audience who may not be familiar with parliamentary procedure.
Parliamentary procedures is having a meeting with Irwin and making a motion to what you believe and see if you get a second. You got a second, and now it's time for a vote about the original budget proposed to town meeting. You have to take that vote up because you got the second.
Mr. Dibber, that you have a chance for discussion. Once a motion is made and seconded, there is an opportunity for discussion. And you've been a part of that discussion. So telling us that we need to make a plan and put something out there immediately is completely against what discussion is all about.
The discussion is to talk to the chief. Mr. Chair, you have not done that, so you should report. But I think I'm comments for the Thank you.
All right. Is there any further discussion from the committee?
Yes. I make a motion to amend the budget by $20,546. And this would be to account 5131. And this is, well, I make a motion to reduce the budget by $20,546. And during discussion, I'll explain why.
What is that taking out? What are you taking out?
We need a second.
We just-
Second.
The amendment. Motion been made and seconded to cut $20,546,000 from the police budget.
And this is part of the overtime, and currently there is a part-time officer, and the part-time officer goes and works the shifts that they have the option of working the shifts of a normal officer when they're out. So by having overtime for that officer, in addition to having the salary for the part-time officer is redundant. I'm just removing a redundancy. That's it. It doesn't cut anybody. This is part of what feeds into the excess at the end of the year. I'd want the chief to have $50,000 or $60,000 of excess so she can, whoops, I didn't know this was going to be more, and she has money to play with. But I'm just trying to cut excessive monies, and this is one option to do so.
How much is that, John?
$20,546.
I'm sorry, can you explain again how this is doubled or redundant?
There's a part-time officer, and the part-time officer works the shifts that the normally scheduled officer does not need to work. And there are 50 shifts that are in that particular category.
I just have to comment that again, that I'm not comfortable making any changes without running it by the chief of police or getting her input. This may make perfect sense.
I agree with that.
We can, if the committee would like, we can. If the committee would like, we could recess the meeting until we have time to get the police chief in here with Thursday work.
Not for me.
Can we get the police chief in here, Tom?
Not a lot of time before the special town meeting.
This is my opinion, just, I may be in the minority.
This is what happens when you schedule a special town meeting before you have your budget. You push the warrant by your finance committee before they've seen it and approved it.
Yeah, it's kind of problematic that our select board chose to move the meeting up from the 23rd. We had already planned a meeting for the 11th, so that we could go over our information and make sure that we had all the time. And I don't know where the pressure came to move that meeting up. It wouldn't have made a difference time-wise. I'm not privy to that information, nor do I need to be privy to that information. So this is a reason that we should slow the roll sometimes, but apparently we don't feel that that's necessary within this spot.
You could have a meeting prior to the special town meeting.
That's what he's proposing for Thursday. That is what he's proposing for Thursday.
That's what I'm proposing for Thursday, but apparently I would like to have a full committee if I could, meaning that we have a full committee this evening.
No, I'm sorry, I meant directly before the special town meeting on Monday.
Okay, and that meeting is being held at 7 o'clock. We could conceivably either meet here, or we conceivably could meet at Wilcona. I would prefer here, but that would a 5 o'clock start time for our meeting work for each member of the committee, or even on Monday?
I just have a question.
Yes, sir.
You guys have already voted this in, and now you don't want it? I don't understand why you would change your mind. I'm kind of confused, because I'm new to this.
That's a perfectly legitimate question. First and foremost, at the annual town meeting, there was, in my opinion, a mandate from 60% of the voters, keeping in mind that our 3 votes didn't sway the number in any way, shape, or form. With that being said, it's kind of, when you get 60% of the voters of one of the largest meetings we've seen in decades that say, you need to cut this budget, it's kind of important for us as a group, as an elected group, to take a look at that budget for some level of cut beyond what has already been cut.
Okay.
That's why we're looking at it in the manner we've looked at it. And that's a very important piece to all of the puzzles, is that we listen to the people when they speak to us. And that's what we're hearing tonight. Now we're hearing things like, oh, we're the people that voted against it from the committee, or wishy-washy. I didn't particularly like that the cut wasn't made deeper than it was. But at some point, you have to kind of let that part go and decide, well, we did get something, and that's called compromise. And I believe this country's been built on a lot of compromises. So, and then I'm there on my vote for my time, I get to do that for myself. And I think people need to.
And in addition to that, we learned additional information from people who have deep knowledge of police procedures, and over a decade of it, that told us that there were excesses in the budget. And prior to the annual town meeting, we did not know it. I went into that annual town meeting fully intending on voting for the budget until I heard what they had to say. And on that basis, I said, no. And I'm glad we had an opportunity to look at it. And again, we're not attempting to cut any meat or bone. We're just going after excess. And we're not going after all the excess, we're going after merely a portion of the excess. I think it's, given what, and I agree with Bill on this, I mean, the people did vote no. I don't understand why the select board doesn't factor that in, that the people told them no, and it come to some sort of a middle ground, but at any rate, that's their business. But I feel that that's justification enough for us to have to go back, take a look at this thing, and come up with something sensible. And I think reducing, not eliminating the excess is very reasonable. And as was said to any department, we made significant cuts to the clerk's budget, down to the bone. And we said to the clerk, you need more money, and you come up with some cost that's not covered, come to us. We just did reserve fund transfers tonight, you saw that.
Right.
We do reserve fund transfers to that and give them anything, so they're not gonna sit there, losing stuff. And, I don't want to have to put the chief in the position where she would have to come to us. So leaving her $50,000 extra is not a bad deal. I think she would be able to do just fine with that. And I believe that the previous budget, the previous administrations that were criticized had only excesses in the range of $12,000 if they had any excess at all. And given that that was the case, of course, they're going to be coming for reserve fund transfers, but so what? Did that impair their ability to operate? Not at all. There's no big deal with that.
I have a question. If you knew all this access was in front of you ahead of time, why didn't you take care of this before you came to the meeting? Instead of having the crowd tell you what you needed to do. You already knew this was there. And that was my first thing. Secondly, I've been to many town meetings here for a long time. Has this ever happened before where on stage, finance committee changed their mind, select board changed their mind? I'd love to know that. Does anybody know? It's just a new thing.
I have seen this, happen at annual town meeting. We were at Nessicus one year in the gymnasium and that took place. That year related to the school.
Finance committee changed their mind, the head of the finance committee and the assistant, vice chair changed their mind, and the select board person changed their mind.
I continue to vote no on the budget that was put.
Well, you already did that, but I'm saying, you're in front of all the people, you're getting pressure from the crowd. And it's vote no.
I think you're, at the risk of repeating myself,
That's no. Thank you.
Oh, because they said that.
Yes.
Yeah, when you do a reserve transfer, the public don't get to vote on it, correct? Unless they come to one of these meetings.
They get the comment, yes.
Well, how many people know that when you do a reserve fund, they're gonna do it? This one, when the police put this budget out, they know the people are voting on that budget. When you do reserve funds, and I do believe over the last few years, I do believe the number's close to $350,000 in transfers. The public never got a vote to vote on that today.
Are those just reserve fund transfers or those interdepartmental transfers?
And the other thing is, I don't believe that you three are just innocent. I think you guys really drummed up a lot of support for your, knock this police budget out. You really targeted the police on this, you really did. And at least
I don't
you
agree
appeared
with
that
you.
way.
I do not agree with you, I'm sorry, Bob.
That's okay.
I
That's the way it
dealt
is,
with this committee all
You
year,
don't know how
and
many phone calls
it's
we
a
get
group
about
of
that.
professional people. That's not a fair thing to say.
That's
We're
what-
all putting in our time,
I do
we're all
appreciate that.
evaluating things. And just for everybody's information, I'm looking at year-end 6/30/2024, where she was under her budget $113,000. $113,000 that was taxed to people so that she could have that money.
Yes, that's why she.
In
went
year
up on the
2023, she was over $62,000.
Right.
That means that people are being taxed to pay for those excesses, to pay for the additional monies she has. That's what we're addressing. We're saying it's fine, but we can't go to people, particularly in this day and age, and say, accept this budget when she has continually gone under her budget.
She did that at the advice of the sheriff, did she not?
No, she didn't. She was told a little over 2 years ago that we need to tighten things up because we dealt with we dealt with police reform. And at that point, was allowed to kind of go with what she had to go with because we had many, many things coming at us. I will get to the people raising their hands on Zoom shortly. After we had stabilized from that, I said to her, and I believe I'm on record as saying to her that we need to tighten this up and get it down below the double-digit increases in the police budget. And we continue to get nearly double-digit increases in the police budget. So at some point, somewhere, someone has to take some time and look at where the money is not being used when you're giving back $100,000+, which is nearly 10% of that budget. That's something that gets your attention when it gets to that point. If it's $20,000 or $30,000, when it gets to that point, that's a very small piece of the puzzle. But when you start talking about 10% of an entire budget, that gets your attention. Yes, Jim?
So the magical information that you guys got the night of the town meeting, has that been verified by anyone? Or actually, then another question. I've asked several questions that haven't been answered. Everyone else has asked questions, but the Board of United States hasn't been responded to these questions. Is it me? Did I get a sense or not?
Could you say that again, please?
Which part?
The last part was quite jumbled, I couldn't hear you.
I asked for an answer.
Could you repeat the question then, please?
Sure. Well, I'm sorry, but you can put it in the chat and you can read it, but nobody's monitoring that again. So what I asked is this magical information you all received, the two of you, the night of the annual town.
Has anybody verified the information of the young lady who had stood up and spoke regarding the police department? I think that's what he's referring to.
The information that we were given, or that we saw at that meeting, when you look at the numbers that are within the budget, you can see where the numbers are coming in and not being used. That's how we were able to verify it. As for walking up to a person and asking them, can you verify it? That is a challenge. And we've actually had discussions with our chief on occasions, and we get some rather ugly answers when we ask those questions. And some of those have been recorded when we ask questions of that manner. So we sometimes have to kind of be careful how we word our questions. But we have the information that she provided. We verified that information through the numbers of amounts of money that are being used and how they're being used. We have done that.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you. You don't look too enthused this meeting, you're holding your head up, so I'll stop asking questions.
No, you can ask questions. I'm just listening carefully and intently to what people have to say and responding when needed. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, two things. I'm sure Tom Hutchinson has the same cell number I gave to the chief. The chief is not available Thursday. She's working shifts this week. The town manager knows that. As well as we're now past 7:13, so at 5 o'clock meeting, 48 hours supposed to be for Thursday. It seems like. Just wanted to share that information with you so the committee can make a decision on one way or the other. And then we'll see what happens at the town meeting, where somebody may make a motion to reverse the budget back to the original. Because I hadn't heard of a committee member who actually talked to the chief and find out what those givebacks were, or go back further in the discussion. So granted, it's taxpayer money, but has anybody talked about what happened that year within that season, or that was a staff member released, such as Sergeant Lizelle? So is there, money that was in the salary budget that went back? What were the changes? You're all making a lot of assumptions, which is not great. So the new committee members, all I'm going to ask is that, not making a statement. They hold the committee accountable to what they took prior to town meeting and move forward. Go from there, but Chief was not available Thursday, so I want to share that, so you kind of stuck with him.
Question over here.
So the town meeting, if we do recess this until prior to the town meeting, is the 11th?
No, 9th.
The ninth.
The 9th is Monday?
Monday.
Yeah, the finance committee was scheduled to meet on the 11th, which is our regular meeting. But we had to move this because of the hasty, and I have no reason, I have no idea why it had to be done so hastily, but it had to be done in a hasty manner to get this all-important information out and get people's input.
So we could still meet Monday before the town meeting.
We can, honestly, with a recess, we can recess and rejoin again, more or less at any point in that case. It doesn't have to do with, if we choose the committee to recess, we can recess to whatever hour that we agree on. Okay? All right.
1 p.m.?
I'd be okay with that. I'd be around for that.
Kids at school?
Kids in school. Anyway, it's we presently have a motion to amend on the floor. Do we have a motion to recess on the floor?
Can we get, try to get an idea of how many people could make it?
Sure. Yeah, you just asked, it's reasonable.
What time are we proposing on Monday?
I would have to say, considering the time constraints, which I have, as you've heard, I have many objections to, but we would have to probably convene at 5 o'clock. That will give us time between the two meetings.
Question?
Yes?
Yeah, Bill, did Joe Gibbert just say that the chief is working control shifts on Thursday? He can't make the meeting?
Yes,
He did?
he did.
Okay, so the chief of police should be able to use the mandatory overtime clause from the department, fill that shift, and she should be able to get here for your meeting.
One would think,
But unfortunately, we can, the 48-hour rule excludes Thursday from happening at this point. Thank you though for your input.
Yep, no problem.
48 hours, and if we recess, we don't have to be.
We can meet on Friday.
And we could,
No.
suppose we do Friday.
Well, I'm out of town.
But
Go ahead.
I don't necessarily want to spend my Friday evening sitting here debating things. I would have to say at this point, who would be able to make, who of the committee would be able to make Monday at 5 o'clock? I would have to say here, because that will allow us to put this together so that we can have a Zoom meeting in a similar manner.
So we're gonna have the police chief here on Monday at 5 o'clock. Is that what you're
It's
saying?
entirely up to our
We
town
don't have a
manager.
meeting, we hope she can make it, we can't guarantee she.
Yeah, because she might be doing a patrol. Yeah, we have a police chief that's doing a patrol this evening. Yeah.
Because we were,
That's incorrect.
Can we have a show of hands for who can make it on Monday at 5?
Yeah, who can make it on Monday at 5? Okay. Paul is out, and Levi, you won't be able to make it, correct?
Unless I bring the kid.
What's that?
Unless I bring the kid. She doesn't want to.
Whatever. It's one hike.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty professional, just let you know.
So anyways.
This is open.
All right, yeah.
Would we like to have a show, a vote on the, post on recessing the meeting to Monday?
Is there a motion to been seconded?
I need, I have two motions on the table that have been seconded, and now we're talking about a recess.
I got a question first. You only want to deduct 20,000 whatever, right? Off the budget and give it back to the town to vote on, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, there were two elements. I wanted to separate them out to, so that we'd have discussion on each. And there's a second one for 30,000, also in
So
regard to
you're saying
overtime.
50,000 total?
That's it.
But
she's always had extra money afterwards. That's what I don't understand. So if she has the other extra money, what happens? I mean,
It goes to free cash.
to her or to
No.
the town?
To the town, it's free cash.
It's always been that way though, right, with her?
No, well, the amount of excess is escalated with time.
So that's, I mean, she's actually keeping the budget under. I'm trying to figure this out, and it's okay.
She's keeping the amount that she spends less than what she asks.
The actual,
The actual.
the actual budget, she's always been 100 under, it seems like, the past couple of years.
Right.
So why do we want to cut?
Because why is she getting the extra 100 if she doesn't need it? She should be budgeting to her budget and not budgeting to, some other number. That would, I mean, do you run your business and, just give yourself an extra 100 grand and do with it as you wish, or do you budget to budget?
But you always have that, I mean, as a business person, I always like to have
They
that
went back
money.
historically,
Yeah.
it was only 40,000 or 50,000, then it became 113,000, then currently it's 130,000.
Yeah.
I don't think she needs to escalate that. I think 40 and 50 did just fine. I mean,
I'm just trying to figure this out.
the purpose of excess is just in case kind of money. She doesn't need, $40,000 to $50,000 just in case. It's pretty darn good just in case. Plus, you can come to us and say, hey, look, we had this other, thing happen. We need even more. Okay? She can justify it. We give her the money.
But if you've had surpluses, and then all of a sudden something happens, well, of course, the surplus goes away. And the next year you show a transfer. We've done that, and then over the years, we've had to do that. And rightfully so, but during those years, which hasn't been mentioned here, during those years, we've had surpluses, but those surpluses run in the range of $16,000 to $20,000. So it's not like this is brand new that's happening. So you have to, first off, we have to look at it historically. And then, but when we start to see an escalation of that, we have to begin to wonder, why are we getting this escalation? And that has nothing to do with public safety. That has all to do with why is it we're getting an increase? Why, at what point, let's say it ends up $250,000. That's going on the tax rate. That's not going on coming out of some other kitty. That's going on the tax rate. It's coming directly out of people's pockets. And off the top of my head, I have no idea how much $250,000 is on our tax rate. I simply can't come up with that number off the top of my head. It's pretty darn close to 20, I believe it's somewhere in the vicinity of 25 cents on a thousand. That's a number for most people's households, especially when you have rather nice houses and things of that nature. That number kind of has a tendency to pile up. And then, so when it begins to build out like that, when those numbers begin to grow like that, we as a committee need to stop, take a look at it, and make a decision. If this thing had passed through, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. That would have gone through, the tax rate would increase, and everyone would be happy. But we would still be hearing from people telling us that their taxes are too high in the town of Dalton. At the rate we're going, including the water and sewer rates and such, we're going to be one of the highest in the state, or not in the Berkshires, with our tax rate. So where do we want to be? Where is it that this town wants to be? Do we want to have a tax rate that's excessive? And I'll get to you, Joe. That's what we have to as a committee, and as a community, we have to ask ourselves. When we have a large group of people that come out and say by 60% that we need to do something, that wasn't at the encouragement of three people sitting on a stage saying, ooh, do that. That was not the case. Because that budget was failing even by one vote.
For the next discussion, could we possibly have a look back at like the last 10 years, probably Karen has that already, for the amount that was voted on versus the amount that was actually expended for the police.
I've got 5.
What's
For the excess.
lacking?
For each.
Yeah.
So back in June 30th, of 2020, there was an excess, meaning that there was money that went back into the coffers, which is of 12,200, I'm just going to round this,
Sure.
33. In 2021, it was 20,502.
Okay.
In 22, that was year 2022, it was 70,614. In 23, it was 62,112. In 2024, it was 113,938. And with a projection that I have for 2025, without 1 month, because it goes from July 1st to June 30th, on an 11-month, I'm projecting probably 100, let's just say I'll go with 128,000.
Okay.
Depending on what she comes up with for the expenses for these, for June.
Thank you. Helpful information.
And that's, all of this information can be found on the expenditure report that is given to me every month. And on that expenditure report, it is broken down by department, or categories probably is a better word. So when you ask us how do we know, we see it via the categories themselves, what's under, what's over. And that's how we know to look at certain things as to where we might be able to take from, even if it's just a little bit. Could be office supplies, it could be a little bit of something else. Salaries is always a touchy issue, because people think that you're taking money out of their mouths, when in fact you're really not touching it at all. It just hasn't been used. And it could be for a certain reason, it could just be for something else. So that's how we as a finance committee take these 5 years projection reports, and we look at them and we just see how we can fine tune a little bit. It is not recommended to zero out a budget. You should always leave a little something in there, just like Mr. Irwin had said, so that in case there's a little extra something that comes along, they have something in their budget to take care of. Again, this all has to do with a little bit of excess. And if Mr. Irwin is looking at, let's just say, 50,000, then we're probably leaving her with maybe $70,000 excess in her budget coming into possibly 26. And again, that is just a projection. I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, but these are the numbers that are given to us by our accountant, and these are the numbers that we work with. So again, I would like to stress that we love our police department. We totally appreciate everything that they have done for our community and for us. This has nothing to do with taking food out of their mouth or their expenses. This is just taking a little bit of that extra money and giving it back to the town's people so that they don't have to pay that extra, who knows, 9 cents to the 1,000 out. That's all we're really trying to do here, is to help them out a little bit. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Giver.
Thanks again, Bill, and I speak with us, but I appreciate the job the finance committee has to do with all the budgets, and you hit the nail on the head of tax, tax rate and whatnot. And this is the only budget that's getting the scrutiny, but my question is, the data that was just routed up, but yet the budget that was discussed and also negotiated and reduced by over $14,000 was fully unanimously approved by the finance committee, which went before the town people. And the other ethical question, I think, is that we have two folks that were on that committee that ran for re-election. I think it was a moment in time when you saw the trend of the audience, and your personal judgment got in the way of your committee responsibility. But I think that finance committee completely missed the boat on this one, because you should have a deliberation from the board. And yes, there is a little bit of pushback against the police department for all sorts of different issues, especially when it comes to accountability. Because some of the folks that stood up and spoke against the police department, we all know the stories, we know the history, look at the YouTube videos, look at the investigations that occurred. So there's a level of issue there as well. But I think the finance committee missed the vote, and when it comes to the town meeting, people will speak again, and they go back the other way, with a motion to bring the budget back to where it was originally presented, no matter what cuts you make tonight, or if not, so.
Mr. Divers, I have a question. How high would you like to see the excess go for the police department?
I think you compare the public administrations, you go back, I don't know, say last 5-10 years.
Yeah, but what I mean is how
What
much,
was collected over the years that the chief took over the administration moving forward, and not a single committee member here, including the finance chair or the town manager, discussed this and asked for the reasons why.
but my question was how high do you want it to continue to go year after year after year? That's my question. Where would you cut off the excess? Would you cut it off at 200,000? Would you cut it off at 300,000? I'm just curious where your thought process is on all of that.
I think you look at the trends and ask the chief why the budget was over budgeted. When the money comes back, ask what happened with their operation. We let go of an officer, so that salary comes back, that's probably about $60K. What are the other expenses that were either deferred or covered by grants? I believe, I recall the number somewhere around $300,000 in grant money that may have offset expenses. What exactly is the story? But not a single committee member here, except for the new ones who probably haven't had the opportunity. Engage the chief in any conversation. I think it's very unfair. I think it's very unfair to the chief, very unfair to the public. And you're not doing your jobs. And your jobs are hard. And Billy and I had conversations about before, let's set a budget number as far as percentage increase and send that through town manager. Town manager never took that to say we're only going to increase the budget by 2%. Stay within the budget. So there's always operational improvements. And, so that goes back to free cash. We know where free cash goes. It goes to other expenses down the road. So it's not money that is, going unwasted at the end of the day. We do want to, tightly control it. But also, if you look back historically, how much of that free cash went back into the police budget because it was not budgeted correctly. But it is absolutely unprofessional of every committee member. They have not had a conversation with the chief. Nor did you invite her to speed and time. Again, that was 2:13 this afternoon. And town manager knows her schedule on the issue. So, gentlemen in the audience and mandatory overtime, town manager should take that to the chief and tell her. So. But absolutely unprofessional. They haven't engaged the chief in any conversation since the budget meeting prior to town meeting, where you all agreed with a $14,000 reduction. And you allow Mr. Irwin, I believe you now $50,000. I heard you had another $30,000, but you will not make a motion of the total. So we'll see where it goes, but you're not doing your job.
Any other questions, concerns? Right, we have a motion for an amendment of $20,546,000 reduction. That would end up equating to a lowering it and bring it down to around $209,000 increase roughly in the budget. I'm not quite sure what the percentage would be. I'm not that quick with her fingers on the measurement. We can move this adjustment if we'd like, or if whomever wants to move the question, we can. I can keep the question open as long as everyone would like to keep it open.
Are we gonna do the other 30,000 time? Or is that gonna?
Well, there's a motion on the floor to table things until next Monday.
Well, we haven't motioned that yet, I know. I
But
asked
there's
if
a
there would
motion.
be, I asked.
Susan made a motion, right?
I did not.
Okay,
I made a suggestion.
all right.
That's just a suggestion. So, we can also put on the floor a motion to table.
So what are we getting out of this meeting that we're gonna do that?
On Monday? if we
Make
could.
sure that she's there?
That'd be the difference, yes. Or,
So you
and we
would
can't
say-
be sure she's there, we just give her another opportunity to attend.
Okay.
And I
Yeah, we
figured
can't-
that.
So if she doesn't come, what's that gonna do? Are we gonna still vote?
We would then have to make a decision without her input at that point. So that would be, and that's, she's got plenty of invitation at this point, considering that this has been out there and her husband and many others have been on that happen to know her. So she would have plenty of notice. I'm sure Mr. Hutchison would be more than glad to send her an email, an
She
invitation.
had no notice, Mr. Chairman, let's not lie to the public. No notice until 2:13.
You're talking out of context, Joe, because he's
Joe,
talking
you're
about next Monday.
Joe, you're out of order? Thank you.
So if we collaborate with the chief and come up with the same budget that we presented to the town originally, and they vote that budget no again, then where are we at?
Go back, we have to go back and then we have to go and make cuts.
Because it seems like the best thing to do is to collaborate with the chief to help work together to figure out something to present to the town that they possibly will approve. Otherwise, if they
It'll
kick
be
it,
a
and
subsequent
just, if they
special
voted no on
meeting.
it, it was for a reason. They wanted it to be lower. So
That's correct.
it seems to be that we did lower it some, approved that budget, sent that to the town, and now we're back here. So
No, the chronology, if I may. We are only back here now because the town voted no
Yeah.
after we presented them with a budget.
Yeah.
And so the scoop is that if they say no again, we will come back again and we will have to make reductions. Some of the reductions that we're actually considering potentially for this evening.
yeah, so it seems we need to collaborate with the chief, just trying to work together to see what we can do to present a budget that the town will approve.
Here's the problem. We've been put in a position because of the hurried methods with which were used to provide a special town meeting. You're in a position that makes many people quite uncomfortable.
So, I don't know. You want to deduct 20,000, why don't we just vote on that? I mean,
We can.
I can't believe that
Well,
that's
there
gonna
was-
hurt her, for 20,000. So, I mean, she has access money later on, right? So,
Tons of it.
so why don't we vote on that right now instead of making everything go until Monday deadline, and maybe she can't even make it. I mean, that's my opinion.
Motion's on the floor.
I share that.
Would we like to move the question?
So how do you do that?
No, no.
Just move the question, you're just saying, move the
I
question.
move the question.
Move the question. All right. Motion made and seconded to amend the budget down by $20,546,000. All those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed?
We have one in opposition. Thank you.
Again, I would,
I
as I mentioned earlier, I would like to be able to have the chief's
That's fine.
input before making any reductions, so.
make sure that our numbers. Oh, I thought that's right. Yes, it is. Right. All right.
Mr.
The
Chair?
present, just a second, the present amount that's on the table for this presently seated motion is $1,644,378. Agreed,
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Did the original motion have an account number associated with it?
210. And the sub-count's 5131.
Thank you.
All right. We have a present motion for the Dalton Police Department budget of $1,644,378. Do we have any other discussion? Jim, real quick. I noticed your hand was up. I happened to glance over and see it up. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I was gonna try to find out what the actual motions were, because it seemed like everyone was confused about it, that's all.
Okay, all right, yes, we had a suggestion for recessing the meeting. It was a suggestion, not a motion. We were having a discussion about that, to recess the meeting. It seems that the members of the committee cannot all make it for that time it was discussed to recess. So we went back to the amendment, to the original motion. We've now had the amendment for the original motion. We amended it down by $20,546. The main motion now reads, the police department, Department 210, in the amount of $1,644,378. That is, I just want to find out, just bear with me. But the new increase on that is $109,122. Did that answer your question, Jim?
What? Increase or decrease?
Did I do that? Increase.
Increase.
It increased to 20, but the new
It's a difference.
Currently different rates.
109.22 is a dollar change from previous year.
Yeah, $109,122 is the change from the previous year.
Up from the previous year.
Yeah, is that?
And that's a 7.11% increase.
Does everyone understand where that motion is at? We have a 7.11% increase in the budget overall from the previous year. And that is, and that number is, I just wanted to reiterate that many budgets were cut this year, and to point out I had 24 budgets were cut this year, some of them to negative percentage increases. I just want to make that clear to all of the people seated out there and asking questions about it. So we've sent some of them to negative. Thank you, I'll get to you in just a second, Bob. Is everyone comfortable with the motion that's on the table? Yes, Amy.
I'm wondering if you would indicate that this is a salary account that you're reducing.
Okay.
It's overtime.
It's overtime.
Yeah, it's salary. One. That brings the salary line item down to $1,453,040. Is that correct?
Yes.
So Bill, that's all you've reduced is overtime?
Yep. With this motion. And it can go down further. That's how much it's not. And that, just to let everyone know, that was a discussion that I did need to have with the police chief a few years ago, was that by having the number of police officers that we presently have, we should have been able to reduce our overtime, and that overtime line item has increased over time for a host of reasons. So those are, just to let you know, discussions that I've had with the police chief. Mr. Bishop, if you need some.
Yeah, how much did all those other cuts add up that you did from all the other budgets?
Well over $100,000.
Yeah, it was
Way beyond.
Yeah, it was in excess of $100,000 in the end.
Did you cut anybody close to what you're trying to cut the police budget?
Cut more, way more.
Yeah, we have one that went down to minus 2.8%. It went down
Which one was
5,000. That was town manager budget. That was just the one I happened to look at. There's many others.
We took the clerk and registrar's budget, cut her to the bone, she's crying.
Yeah. There's town clerk budget. We cut the town clerk budget. Her ultimate ending was 2.3%. We cut it. We didn't end up in the negative with her, but we cut her budget. So we didn't leave any stones that we could find unturned. So we didn't single out the police. The police just had the largest gainer. So we had to look at
How much did you cut the school budget?
school budget isn't there for us to cut. However, the school did indeed, when we were presented with their budget, they did indeed cut 4 full-time education positions. They also used many reserves to keep their budget at 2.7% this year. We had, excuse me, we received a 3.3% increase in our budget because we have more students and it's costing more for us to get our kids into the school system. So that is a problem, a Dalton problem, not a school district problem. So we have many students that go within that school district. I believe the town of Hinsdale was excess of 6% increase in their school budget, but yet they still had a 2.7 increase in their operating budget. So when it comes down to the school did their due diligence. They looked at places that they could get funds and use funds in a correct manner, and they did away with personnel as well. So when it comes down to the school, let's take it easy on the school. Thank you. Would you like to move the question? Or move the motion?
So I can't talk anymore. Yes, sir.
I wish to go on the record and state that
Oh, Jim. Sorry about that, Jim. Go ahead.
Okay, so to your statement about the police department's overtime budget supposed to be going down as they hire more people, I'm sure you know that by they hire people and they have time on the job, they get more vacation time, sick time, leave time or whatever. So it's only very short times that overtimes go down when you hire people, because everything contractually comes up. So I'm not sure if you understand all that, but that's typically how it works.
this particular reduction was addressing the fact that the part-time police officer would come
No, I
over.
wasn't talking about that, I was talking about the bill that was taken a few minutes ago about hiring people.
Well, in the discussions, we anticipated with having a fuller staff, that because of the larger staff, we were going to be able to reduce the need for overtime only because the positions were being filled more readily. And we were able to keep the positions full and not have as much time off that we need to cover. That is where the overtime issue has come in.
Well, that's a contractual thing that minimum manning would have to do something with, and that's not a traditional issue, so there's really nothing to do about it at this point. It's just,
I would have to agree. Right. And is there anything else out in there? All right.
I would like,
Yes, please.
I actually am in favor of addressing an additional $30,000 in the budget. But at this juncture, considering how contentious this whole situation is, I'm inclined to offer up the $20,000 reduction. So it is a reduction. It does hear the people and their request for less. It gives them an option to vote for less. If they're approved that, fine. If not, then I would be in favor of going for the additional $30,000. And I'll be clear tonight that I believe that $30,000 additional should come off of that budget to give her a more reasonable excess, and I will therefore not be voting in favor of the motion as it currently stands, but I understand that it will be brought forward. So I will be consistent for folks. Thank you.
So did everyone understand that?
Clearly.
Thank you. All right, so, motion been made and seconded for the police department, Department 210, the amount of $1,453,040 in salaries, expenses of $191,338 in expenses, for a total budget of $1,644,378. That is a 7.11% increase in their budget. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
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 All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. 3 nays.
Four.
Four nays. And who did this? What? Whoever, it's just please make it clear what your vote is.
Nay.
Opposed.
Who are the names?
Over here.
Okay, there's 4 names. Any abstentions? Seeing and hearing none, budget passes. Thank you very much. This, just to let everyone know, this will be the budget that is presented this coming Monday at the special town meeting. We have completed the old business portion of our meeting. We now have the new business portion of our meeting. And this concerns the motions and recommendations from the Finance Committee to the people of the town of Dalton. Officially out here. You all have a copy of the articles, the motions and explanations. All right. For the new people, just for your education, this is what we do. These are the things we do before all of the special and the annual town meeting. We generally, the week or two, the attempt is 2 weeks before. Generally, we try to, we go through the motions and explanations, and these are the motions and explanations that I put forward at the meeting. And those representations are of the Finance Committee. Just to keep that in mind and let everyone know that that's where that all comes from. So these are what the Finance Committee feels that we can present to the people. The people make the decision on what it's going to be. So basically don't take it personally if they choose to go against us. All right, Article 1.
That's changed, just so you know.
Right.
What's that changed because of our budget?
Yes. Yes, Article 1, this is what the motion. We just wait in. I said, that's right, that's this one.
So then I read the article. I got the numbers.
Oh, you've got numbers, go ahead and read the article.
So I move that the town raise and appropriate the sum of $1,644,378 to fund the police department operating budget for fiscal year 2026, of which $170,792 shall be for expenses and $1,473,586 shall be for salaries. I think I've got it wrong.
That's correct, it should be $1,153,040.
That should go.
1,400,000
53,040.
The expenses have
040.
changed.
Right, the
Correct.
expenses did not change.
Expenses.
I'll read that again.
Please do.
I move that the town raise and appropriate the sum of $1,644,378 to fund the police department operating budget for fiscal year 2026, of which $191,338 shall be for expenses and $1,453,040 shall be for salaries.
Second.
Yeah.
Is there, did I get a second?
Yes.
Okay. A motion was made and seconded to approve Article 1. I move that the town raise and appropriate the sum of $1,644,378 to fund the police department operating budget for fiscal year 2026, of which $191,338 shall be for expenses and $1,453,040 shall be for salaries. Is there any discussion on this motion? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed? You just write that down. All those abstaining. That is, that has one.
I'm going to vote against it to be consistent.
Yeah, you know, then we probably should go with that. You always make connections. It's not a bad thing. I didn't say anything yet. Are there any other nays? We have 3 or 4?
3.
Very good. Fair enough.
All right, so we have, can we move for a second?
Yeah.
Move repeat. So what happens is
We want to make sure the votes are what people wish.
All right.
So we still lose that. Okay, we have a change.
Yeah, sorry, I was confused with the question.
That's perfectly fine.
Okay, so basically what the confusion was, just to reiterate for the new members, is that if you voted, and correct me please, if you did vote no, when Bill made the motion on the police budget, what happens now is it goes into the article. So Bill is now going to present that new budget total, okay, to the townspeople. And what you're doing is on the article is going to be, you're going to approve the article of that budget, or you're going to say no to it.
Right.
So if you want to stay consistent to what your vote was, you have the absolute right to say no, to continue that way, or you can say whatever, yes, or so abstain.
Okay.
Is that,
So do we have?
so can we redo, is that a possibility?
Well, no, what was your, to be honest with you, I was conflicted.
So, sorry,
I was gonna ask for the.
I want to stay consistent with my last vote, so I'm opposed, yeah.
So how many opposed do we have?
Let's have a hand count on the yeas, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nays. Nays? thank you. That settled that quite nicely. All right, on to, that motion passes.
Article 2, I move that the town amend its vote taken on motion for Article 3 of the warrant for May 5th, 2025 annual town meeting by reducing the amount appropriated for fiscal year 2026 operating budget in the following amounts. Account number 139, town audit, $22,500. Account number 449, sewer treatment, $68,000, for a total of $90,500.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded for Article 32. I move that the town amend its vote taken on the motion for Article 3 of the warrant for May 5th, 2025, annual town meeting by reducing the amount appropriated for the FY 2026 operating budget in the following amounts. Account 139, town audit, $22,500. Account 449, sewer treatment, $68,000, for a total of $90,500. This, just to let everyone know, this will reduce the operating budget of the town, and it increases that number. And then, how much is the ceiling on the last iteration of this thing? Is it 6? I see 6.3 on it. Is that up to date, Sandy? On the
What are you looking at?
the spreadsheet?
So, do you have the one that says, hold on. Budget number 9 at the top?
Budget 9, that's what we have in front of us.
So that includes what may happen at the special town meeting.
Okay, all right, this is, okay, so, that would, this particular, article will
Decreases the amount that we need to appropriate.
well, yeah, decrease in the amount, and it'll increase to, it'll be a little over $300,000 in levy capacity.
No,
That's-
it's right on there. It should be on there. Okay.
Oh, it's already in it?
No, excess levy capacity, right here.
So that's,
That's the excess levy capacity.
That's a change.
No, $15 change.
It's a dollar change. That's the capacity.
Okay.
That's how much of it down.
So
Our
the
excess
excess
levy-
levy capacity is basically 279,000,
Yes.
Okay, with this change.
with these changes.
Okay.
Yes, and just if I may, most of them are sewer related at this point in time. So right now, the only thing that changed that levy capacity is the reduction of the town audit at this point.
Okay.
So the rest are sewer, and they go in the sewer user fee, so they're not part of,
You're not part of the, oh, it won't be part of the levy. It's just, so that would only go down 22, that would only go up to 22, the capacity levy.
Yep.
Right, and also the police, so it went up 44,000.
oh, yeah, I didn't have that. in
Yeah,
there.
if the police, the new police budget is approved,
It'll be another, whatever it was, 20,546. Right.
yeah, so it's a little over like 42,000.
So these numbers, we didn't have these numbers on May 5th, and that's the reason why we couldn't make the reduction at the time. So this is just additional information that's become available subsequently, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And we don't have voc ed as well, correct?
Say that again?
We don't have
that
voc
until
ed
September.
yet?
No, there are about 3 other budgets that we may be able to reduce. We weren't able to get the numbers for the 9th meeting. So at a special town meeting, before setting the tax rate, we can reduce 3 more budgets, most likely.
Yeah,
Thank you, Sandy.
we're hopeful to have, just let everyone know, we're hopeful to have another special town meeting to reduce the budget further in mid-September. Is right now kind of the target, is we'll have a lot of information from voc ed, we'll have a lot of information from Pittsfield, we'll have debt that his prices have been coming down, and it sounds like maybe our insurance may come down. So we have some pretty substantial savings coming from that. So That's good, unanticipated, with new knowledge, that people don't realize that we get knowledge on a pretty regular basis throughout this process.
And kudos to the town accountant, the town treasurer, because they're trying to be especially vigilant this year, knowing that we're getting close to the ceiling. Make sure we trim as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Right. Are there any other questions or concerns relating to the Article 2?
None.
Seeing here none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining, that is unanimous.
I move that the town amend the second vote taken at the motion for Article 22 of the warrant for the May 5th, 2025 annual town meeting, which appropriated the sum of $250,000 to purchase and equip a truck with sewer flushing equipment for the Department of Public Works by transferring from free cash an additional sum of $20,000.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded for Article 3. I move that the town amend the second vote taken on the motion for Article 22 of the warrant for the May 5th, 2025 annual town meeting, which appropriated the sum of $250,000 to purchase and equip a truck with sewer flushing equipment for the Department of Public Works by transferring from free cash an additional sum of $20,000. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Mr. Chair, I think you may recall that at the annual town meeting, the DPW superintendent did say that he expected that a small extra amount would actually purchase the particular setup that he thought was appropriate, given that he was not going to get the catch basin cleaner as part of that unit. This represents that additional, relatively small amount to the $250,000 that he was referring to. And it also includes about $2,500 for lights and lettering.
That'll make it an official piece of equipment then. We get killed on the road, I think they say on the road. So, all right. Are there any other questions or concerns relating to Article 3?
None here.
Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstaining, that is unanimous. All right, on to Article 4.
I move that the town transfer from free cash the sum of $40,391 for the purpose of funding a deficit in the fiscal year 2025 nice account, of which $23,461 shall be for salaries and $16,930 shall be for expenses.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded for Article 4. I move that the town transfer from free cash the sum of $40,391 for the purpose of funding a deficit in the fiscal year 2025 snow and ice account, of which $61 shall be for salaries and $16,930 shall be for expenses. This just satisfies the deficit that we run each year, and generally we fund that deficit. Generally we fund that deficit with free cash, because we have, sometimes, some towns have to fund it with things like reserve accounts, some do.
Or
Generally-
departmental transfers, yes.
Yeah, departmental transfers, that's another matter. All right. Are there any questions just to let the newer people understand, snow and ice is the only budget that is allowed to run in deficit. And the reason for that is because of emergencies like we have. And so you want to make sure that you kind of keep your numbers close. But at the same time, if we overrun, we can't, the snow and ice budget can never be reduced. It can only go up. And generally, we go up in small incremental amounts, just because there are times that we don't have to do this. But each and every year, when they anticipate it going over budget, when we anticipate this thing going over budget, a letter is sent to Tom. Tom announces that the select board that we were going to run into deficit for our snow and ice account. So that everyone made clear that we will be running deficits, right? Right, are there any other questions or concerns with relation to Article 4? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Right.
All those opposed, all those abstaining. Thank you very much.
I move that the town transfer from free cash the sum of $45,000 for the purpose of funding professional and technical work to ensure compliance of the Berkshire Concrete Corporation with the conditions of their special permit and with town orders.
Second.
A motion is made and seconded for Article 5. I move that the town transfer from free cash the sum of $45,000 for the purpose of funding professional and technical work to ensure the compliance of the Berkshire Concrete Corporation with the conditions of their special permit and with town orders. Tom, do you want to enlighten everyone a little, enlighten everyone a little bit on this? Tony had offered to do it earlier, but he had to leave.
Yes, there is, that's split between legal and technical work. The legal work would be about $25,000. That's 100 hours at $250 an hour. KP Law, originally Tony thought that might be special legal work, which is billed higher. But town council said, no, that's something that sounds like it would be covered under regular work, which was $250 an hour. Tony estimated 100 hours of work, that's $25,000. And the rest of it is for technical work, that's engineering and advice to the legal team so that we can move forward with appropriate measures to control the dust and get it done as quickly as possible.
Does this include monitoring of that area for everyone?
I know he had a figure for monitoring. I don't understand how the figure for monitoring fits into this.
I would agree.
This number.
That's why I'm asking that rather loaded question.
He had a figure for monitoring. It may be above and beyond that amount.
All right, but this
And I think it was about $14,000.
a year, a month per test. Do we know? No, that's more of a question we need to be thinking about, is where that's coming from. So what this does is, this $45,000 gets the process started for kind of completing all of the technical and legal stuff that we're gonna need with relationship to Berkshire Concrete? Does it at least get us started?
The issues are sufficiently complex and contested so that we need additional resources other than those we can provide internally in order to do the work.
Okay, that's the answer I'm looking for. All right. Are there any questions concerning this? This technical and legal work that needs to be done with relationship to Berkshire Concrete? One of the things is, we do have a legal stabilization account that if we got in a real pinch, we could go to. Not that I would encourage that. But, and we do have an engineering budget that we can use if it push came to shove, we would be able to access that, am I correct?
As I recall, the Finance Committee reduced the engineering budget last year and did not raise it again, so I think it stands at about $20,000, which we have been using that fairly regularly for normal operations. I think if they needed more, the proposed fall special town meeting would be a good place to
Add more to it.
get that money. At that point, free cash will not be available, however.
Right, we would have to look into maybe stabilizations.
Raised and appropriated or stabilization.
Yeah. I'm not sure raising appropriate is appropriate for this task. All right. Are there any other questions from the committee concerning this? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed, all those abstained. That is unanimous. Thank you. Article 6.
I move that the town rescind its vote taken on the motion for Article 10 of the warrant for the May 5th, 2025 annual town meeting.
Second.
Motion made for Article 6. I move that the town rescind its vote taken on the motion for Article 10 of the warrant for May 5th, 2025 annual town meeting. Appropriated sum of $34,000. Oh, okay, that's the sewer stabilization one.
We just reduced 68,000,
Yeah.
so we don't need the 34.
Yeah, we don't need 34,000 any longer. All right. Are there any questions? This is a good one. This keeps our sewer user fees down. Sandy, you and I spoke, with these reductions, do we see possibly the minimum at best sewer user fee increase this coming fiscal year?
I am analyzing that now.
Okay.
So this was to take care of a deficit in the sewer account for 25, right?
For 24.
24, right. So we didn't need it because there was a weight error on the bill from Pittsfield for one of the items that we are billed for. So we didn't need this extra amount to take care of the budget.
Are there any questions on this motion or on this article? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor signify in the usual manner.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? It's unanimous, thank you. And last but not least, presently I have nothing at this time for things to come before the committee. Does anyone else within the committee have anything to come before the finance committee? Does anyone in the audience have anything they'd like to speak? Thank you, everybody. All right, yes. Oh, I see Jim Cavalier with his hand up. Jim?
Just a question, I'm not sure what budget or even where to ask the question, so I figure I'll ask it now. On a recount for elections, where does that money come from?
The money is part of the elections fund. It's, I'm not sure, let me get you the account number. Yeah,
163 is the registrars.
Yeah, 163, the registrars. Sorry.
And there's enough money in there to cover all that?
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
Oh, yeah, it's plenty.
It's less than $1,000.
Sandy says it's
It's less than
elections.
$1,000.
No, less than $1,000.
It's election.
Oh, it's elections?
Sorry.
Oh, that would be out of elections, and elections, yeah, it's less than $1,000 out of elections as well. So, either one, it doesn't affect the budget at this point. Did that answer your question, Jim? Apparently it does. Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, to adjourn. All those in favor signify in the manner.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Yes.
All those abstaining? One abstention. All right, thank you, everyone.